Hello, everyone. Happy holiday season greetings here from USA Global TV and Radio. I am Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I am in such a great mood today. I am celebrating because our team has two number one Amazon new releases back to back, one day after another, Wednesday and Thursday. Amazing. Our show today is The Wise Ones, and I just want to give a shout out to everybody out there who watches our programming, who follows us, who joins us as guests, purchase our books. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our topic today is we are welcoming back a guest who's been here before, which I always say I really love that. It makes me feel like we are doing something right here when people want to come back and continue to share their stories. Before we bring out our guest, Frank, let's welcome the star of our show. Really, this man needs no introduction. If you watch any of our programs, he is involved in so many things, and he has a big place in my heart for always being the person who says, yes, I can do it. And believe me, he goes beyond. He is incredible, his professionalism and his dedication to everything he commits to doing. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. red.Olaughlin to the program. Hello.
Hello there. Thank you again, Dr. Jacalyn. Always a pleasure to be with you on the shows.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always so much fun. It's always educational. And we get to meet people from all over the world who are sharing their stories. And I just am so grateful. You brought another person here this time, Frank, his second time that he's coming to meet with us today. I know he's got some special announcement that he wants to share with us. But Red, you've been doing a lot of wonderful things. And you have your own books that you've published. You're doing quite a lot here, which I'll just recap it quickly. In addition to being a co-host, you're also an expert presenter in Talking Heads, and you're starting with a new series right after this. You are a certified elevated listener. You are our official judge on the Spelling Bee show, which is coming up on Monday. I can hardly wait. You just were the co-host for our book launch party for Lady Ella, and you also are doing a special series with me, which was going to be 6 episodes. I think I told you we're up to 12 now, and that is Food and Your Emotions. And you'll be starting your own health panel. So, Marilyn, sit tight. Thank you so much for your understanding. But tell us about the work that you do as a longevity strategist, as well as a Toastmaster, a speaker, an author, and a publicist.
Well, before I do that, I have to mention that, yes, in children's books category, Dr. Jacalyn was the first release, new number one best-selling, not best-selling, new release, number one book, new release, 2 different books, 2 different days. But she's also a number one best-selling author twice over. So it makes her a 4-time Amazon best-selling author in the category of a lot of different categories. But she has a 7-part series coming up in the children's books on how to improve our listening. And that, I think, is such a super deal for anybody, whether you're my age, 76, or whether you're just a 6-year-old and in first grade or whatever it may happen to be. So just a lot of good information there. Myself, my first love was chemistry. Long before I met my wife, I spent 31 years in the Navy, 54 years with my wife, and we're still going strong. And I use my chemistry background nowadays to research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So I look at what causes things to happen, but primarily with an aging perspective, a longevity perspective. What can we do to slow down those age-related diseases? Right after this show, to finish up this year, we have 2 more programs called Talking Heads, and I have 2 more shows this year. And rather than try to get involved in a new series of 6, I decided, well, let's just take a look. How can we get into 2023 and start those incremental changes to our life, to our lifestyle, that will allow us to grow old, but be younger and more or less at risk at disease in general, but especially any age-related diseases. So we'll be talking about a term called a hack, a health hack. What can you do? These are little incremental things that you can make a change literally overnight in some things. And with the end result being that 2023 or sooner, you can start making some of these changes very, very simply. Dr. Jacalyn took one of them to heart immediately. That was go to a smaller dish to put your food in. If it's not a whole bunch of food, you're not getting as much in there. It's called caloric restriction. But anyway, there's a lot of things we can do, just simple little things. That's what I'll be talking about. And with that, I'm going to go just jump in. And Frank Zaccara is a friend of mine, military guy. He lives out in the California area. He's also a publisher, and he specializes in a little bit different things than I do when I publish. But I had a chance to meet him through the Houston Veteran Chamber of Commerce event we had here in Houston. He and his wife flew out, spent a couple days here. We had a chance to connect and share a lot of good ideas. And I said, Frank, you'd be wonderful in this show. And so I said, here's the invitation. And sure enough, he showed up. And just this past week, he was mentioning to me that his book, I'm going to let Frank tell you all about it. So let's do it that way. So Frank, I'm going to go back to Dr. Jacalyn so she can bring all three of us together.
All right. I'm super excited. Thank you so much. I just want to add one thing. Everyone has the opportunity to join us on our team by becoming an elevated listener. So stay tuned for that. After you're a guest, you get a survey, and there's an opportunity right there to do it. Frank, come on out and tell us about your great super news. Hello.
Well, hello. Good to see everybody again. Red, always a pleasure. Dr. Jacalyn, same, always a pleasure.
It's really nice to see you. Frank, what can you tell our audience based on the interview that you had last time? That were some of your key takeaway tips that you have for our audience?
Well, the big thing that we try to stress is in life, you're going to get stuck. It's inevitable. It's going to happen at some point. Now, are you going to stay stuck? That's up to you. That's a choice. And what we've tried to put together is, here's some ideas, real life ideas from real people who've been where you've been, who've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. The key thing I try to get across to everybody is surround yourself with people who've been where you want to go, not clones of yourself who've never done it, but people who have achieved where you're trying to get to, because they can show you where the rocks are, and then you can walk on water.
I love that. Fantastic. Thank you. Red?
Frank was mentioning to our group here this past week about an honor award
Yes.
that his latest book has gotten. And it's just like, boom, it just happened. And I didn't want to spoil it for everybody. I wanted to prep it a little bit. So Frank, tell us about the book. Tell us about the award. Tell us what, enlighten us as to what all happened to make this thing work the way it did.
Yeah, it was stunning, shocking, almost. We wrote a series. It was a series of books, business secret series. One is Secrets for Walking on Water, Secrets for Avoiding Relationship Landmines, and the third one was Secrets for Getting Unstuck. And all three of those books achieved a #1 best-selling new release in multiple categories, which again is very, very thrilling. And we submitted the whole series to the Author Zone. And the Author Zone is releases in different categories, what they deem to be the best book released in 2022 in different categories. So the last book, The Business Secrets for Getting Unstuck, was released in 2022. And last week, we got this email message that said, congratulations, you're the first place award winner, best nonfiction business book for 2022. And it was like, wow, because you submit the book way back in August, and then you don't hear anything for a long time. So you thought, okay, well, that was nice, it was a good experience, but getting the award was amazing. And then an author that I'm working with, we do a lot of marketing and promotion for authors because writing a book is one thing, but marketing and promoting is something completely different. So we've been working with one of our authors, and her name is Deborah Holes Nolan. And her book also hit #1 in nonfiction spiritual. So it was like a double win. It was my book and her book, and we were touching both of them. So it was very, very exciting. And thank you for the opportunity to tell the world.
How long have you been publishing books and being a book conspirator or a coach? Or
Well, I started. I wrote 5 books before I knew what the hell I was doing. It just did it, and had no idea how to play the game. And the books were good, but nothing happened, right? So then I finally met a real publisher, someone who understands how the game is done, and then we started putting this series together. What's really strange is that what I've been doing for many years is advising mid-sized companies and through transitions and they like the term pivot. I like the term course correction. I just don't like the term pivot at all. And then as these books started to hit, the three of them in a row, my partner had a success with her book. We started getting contacted by authors who said, we don't know how to market and promote the book. Would you help? So we, through a lot of pain and suffering with the first 5 books, learned here's how you play the game. Here's so we put a whole campaign together, and we give a statement of work, which is very, very detailed, of everything that we're going to do, everything that the author needs to do. We help write scripts for them. We help do posts for them. And we even create some email messages and various, nurture them through the process. In this past week, the 8th consecutive title that we've worked on has hit #1 best-selling new release, and again in multiple categories. It's not just one. This one hit in 6 different categories, and so and it's knowing how to play the game. That's the magic. That's why I said you get to somebody who's been where you want to be. And we didn't plan on this happening, Red. Dr. Jack did not plan on doing this. It just sort of evolved because we've had some success, and we seem to have a campaign, a program that works.
Frank, thanks for sharing that. A question that I have for you, you mentioned about the 5 books and that you were kind of not getting anywhere, or maybe didn't feel overwhelmed with joy. I'm not sure exactly what you're feeling, but that's a really pivotal point, because many times people they'll do something, they'll accomplish something, they'll put something out there, and they're not getting the return on emotion that they want to get, or return on your wallet, or whatever it might be. But you kept going. So what you could have said, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do something else. What was it that kept you persevering and continuing on?
Well, some of it is stubbornness, and doing the first one. Again, I didn't know what was happening, but we had all these ideas. I had all these ideas. So let's try this, and let's try this. And I think I did stop for a while. I stopped for probably 3 years, maybe 4 years. And I was, I had a radio show like you do, and not as big as yours, but I had a radio show, and I interviewed Kathleen Cannabis. And she is a best-selling author, an award-winning author. And she had said to me, Frank, why don't you write a story, a chapter in this upcoming compilation book? So I did. The book was called Crappy to Happy. What an interesting name, right? So I wrote a story in there, and it did well. The book reached #1. And then she called me on the phone. I was driving to Arizona where my daughters are. And she said, you have to start writing again, Frank. You have to do it. And I said, no, I'm not interested. Too much pain and suffering. Didn't get what I wanted. And she said, well, I'm going to help you now. We're going to do this together. And we're going to work on a series. And that's how it started. And I was very skeptical, to be perfectly honest with you. After doing 5 books and all that, you put a lot of heart and energy and soul into it. And then you're like, oh, God, you're so depressed. But I said, okay, let's pick up the pieces and try again. And then when you get with someone who knows what they're doing, like Red, who knows what he's doing, it makes a world of difference. It's just a world of difference. It's just, you cannot, and I say this all the time to people, you can't walk on water till you know where the rocks are. And I didn't know where the rocks are, and I kept sinking. So I finally got through my head, get with people who know what they're doing, that have been where you want to go, and rely on them. And don't bring people into the fold and then question them. That's what I see all the time, even when I was doing consulting and turning around companies. There's floundering, and you're saying, well, let's look at it this way. Let's attempt it, this model. And then they start debating and arguing with you. And it's okay, well, look, if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. But we've been there before. We know where the landmines are. We know where the rocks are. We can show you to avoid all this time and money that you're going to spend throwing down a bunch of different rabbit holes. And when you write 5 books on your own and try to make it happen, you're shuffling a lot of money down rabbit holes. But then getting together with people who are aware and understand the process and are willing to guide you, and you're willing to listen. That's the biggest thing, is to be able to listen to, ask for, and take advice from people who can actually help. Because everybody's got an opinion, no matter what you're going to try to do. You're going to try to write a book, 50 people are going to give you an opinion on what you should do and how you should write it and how you should market it. And they've never done it. But finally, when it registers, get somebody who's been there, and that gives you a better chance of success. It's a collaborative effort. You cannot do it on your own, period.
I love what you're sharing. And you know what else? It's fun to be a part of a team. It's fun to have, like, I love working with Red. I love working with my co-author. I love, well, I'm not going to say love about the other person, but it's good to have people that know more than you know and that can help you in the journey, and you can actually enjoy yourself as well. Would you say that you are in turn doing the same thing to help other people? People helped you, and now that's what you're doing. You're helping other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned a long time ago when I was in the military that if I'm the smartest guy in the room, then I need to get in a different room, because there's so many people have so many gifts, and it's finding what people are passionate about and what they excel at. And so as we started, as writers started coming to us about helping them with their marketing and promotion of their books, we said, you could feel the passion that they put so much effort into this, but again, they're not sure where to go. And a lot of it is you're part psychotherapist, you're part counselor, you're part marketing promoter, because when you're putting a book together, as we all know, you don't know if it's going to happen. Is anybody going to read it? Is anybody going to care what I have to say? You go through all that self-doubt that you go through, which is normal because you're putting yourself out there. This is you being put on stage. And so we try to guide them. Here's the plan, okay? And it's very detailed. We give a statement of work that's very, very detailed, so everyone knows what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And we walk them through the process. And it goes from a pre-launch, which is, who are you? And why would anybody care? We say it nicer than that. The second one is the actual launch, getting ready for the book to come out. Here's what this book is about. This is why it's important. This is why it matters. And then a post-launch. And the post-launch is keeping the awareness going, because you can become yesterday's news really fast if you release a book and it moves up the chain, up the ladder, and then you don't do anything with it. So it's an ongoing promoting thing that has to occur. One of the things we tell a lot of these authors is you almost have to look at it as like you're having a child, because you're going to be with this for a long time. It's not a one time and then you're done. It's something you're going to have to continue to work on and promote. And we'll get you on podcasts. We'll get you on your show like Dr. JACALYN. We'll help them continue the exposure to stay relevant and going forward. And then what we're starting to hear is they're thinking, wow, maybe I can write another book. You know, this wasn't so painful. I have help. Someone walked me through the process. And that's happening now. So it's very exciting to work with these folks. And after having eight consecutive in 18 months, we have 8 consecutive number ones and 8 titles in 18 months. People are more willing to listen. There's that skeptical, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Yes, we know what we're doing. We've been successful. We can help you.
So you came through COVID and then all of a sudden exploded in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly. The COVID thing was a retooling for everybody, right? And you're not getting consulting agreements because you can't go onto the sites anymore. So you're doing a lot of virtual speaking. And then the books were very fortuitous that they came out in that 12-month window. And so 3 books in 12 months. And everything hit. And it was like, I used to tell corporate executives all the time, you know, you keep beating your head against this wall here. You know, if you look 5 feet over to the right, there's a door. Why don't you go through the door instead of keep pounding your head against this wall? And that's almost what this happened with this marketing and promotion for these authors was, Frank, it's right there in front of you. These opportunities keep coming. Grab it. Let's move forward with it. And I have a partner, Melissa Van Oss is my partner. And together we sit and we collaborate we talk with the author and we go through what the book is. And then we come up with a strategy. And then everybody buys in on the strategy. Now here's the plan. And let's go from there. And it's everything we learned, Red, in the military and everything we learned in the rest of our life in corporate world that's now coming together is you got to be able to collaborate with other people. You got to be able to give direction that's clear and concise. You have to be able to follow up and give people their job to do and let them do it. You don't give away the responsibility. You're still responsible, but you got to let them do what they're supposed to do. And everyone rises to the occasion. It's amazing when we bring these authors in, and when they start seeing some success, as we start putting up posts for them and they start seeing responses, they go higher than we ever thought they would, simply because someone believes in them and someone is showing them the way. And that's all most people need, is you're valued, you're respected, and we're going to show you how to get there. We're going to be there with you.
One of the things that reminds me of is that when I ask a question, what does it take to be a successful fisherman? And I throw this out periodically at different ones, and I'll get, the bait and the boat and whatever. And in reality, the only one thing you need is hungry fish. And so
I didn't even think of that, Red.
if the fish aren't hungry, they're not going to bite. It doesn't matter how good a boat, how good a lure. If they're not hungry, they're not going to bite. And so we're out there constantly networking. We're planting seeds. People know at some point in time, they're going to get hungry and they're going to come. But in the case of yours, I'm seeing, well, where in the lake the fish are. You know the time of the day the fish are hungry, and you know what kind of lure they want. So you've already solved all that for your clients. You're there now to say, come over here. Just get in the boat. I'll take you where you need to go, and you're going to be successful because we've done this before. We know. And unless there's a little ice age or something, or everything dries up, day after day after day, what needs to happen. And things do change. But that is kind of what I'm hearing. Is that a fair analogy?
You hit it right perfectly. No one's going to change until they're ready to change, right? And that's what we see. Now, one of the things that's interesting is we say no more times than we say yes when people come to us, because it's just like you said, Red, is we know where the fish are and we know where the lures are. But they'll say, well, no, but I want to go over here instead. And I said, well, then you should go do that. Go over there instead. But this is where the fish are. This is where they're biting, right? So if you let us guide you, we're more than happy to do that.
Because you can look on social media, you can look on Google, you can look on YouTube, you can find all these things that say you need to do this, you need to get your brand, you need to have your website, yet all these things. And that's true, and that's probably all needed. But for us as authors, one of the measures is how much money is coming in the door once that sale starts to, once the book is now available in public. And becoming number one is one part of allowing your child to grow older and bring more money in the door. And so it's not just the mere fact that you wrote the book. That's a relatively easy thing to do. You start finding out that the editing is a little bit more of a bear than you ever thought it was. And then all of a sudden you end up with this thing on the door that says marketing, and you open the door and my God, there's just so much stuff out there. And you close the door and okay, fine, I'm number one best-selling author, but you're not really taking advantage of it. And there's so many things that can happen. And it sounds like that you've been very fortunate and opened enough doors and peek behind the curtains and know that, hey, you follow me. This is the way we need to go.
Exactly. It's exactly right. As we're going through things with an author, we're always asking them, number one, why do you want to write this book? Number one. And then what do you want to do with it when it's done? Because 10% of the revenue you're going to generate is going to come from the book. The rest of it's going to come from appearances and from speaking and from workshops and from subscription agreements. And what other things do you want to do? The best-selling number one book gives you credibility, and it gives you a sense of authority. So now you can go in someplace and say, I've done this. I understand this. Here it is. Now, what do you want to do with it? We get a lot of people, Dr. Jacalyn, who come to us and say, I want to write a book for my grandchildren. It's like a children's book. And I said, well, you should talk to someone like Red. He can help you get the book out. But if that's what you want to do, that's great. That's wonderful. And that gives you that emotional satisfaction. But we're looking for authors who want to leverage what a book can bring into their professional life. Those are the people that we're most interested in working with, because they have something really powerful to say. And it's just, they don't have the platform. Does that make sense? They don't have the necessary platform. And having the book and getting a bestseller gives you a platform. Now, what do you do with it? It's up to you. And this is the second phase of our programs. Then we do the post-launch and help people with the, now what are you going to do with it? Here's some things that we strongly recommend.
Yeah, Dr. Jacalyn and I have been talking about coming out with the teacher's workbook or the parent's workbook for her 7 children's book that she's coming out, because she specializes. She's an expert in listening. And as such, that expertise, we can put it into the child's ability to understand and the parent's ability to help. But, as you're talking about the platform that really gets you a bigger audience, more sales, is now we have this workbook that teaches the teacher how to make this thing happen. And so that's part of the expansion of her program in that particular area that we're delving into right now, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. There's so much value in doing that. One of the things that it's been an offshoot that's been interesting through the Houston Regional Veterans Chamber, Dr. Jordan, who does a great deal of work in government, with the state government and federal government, he and I connected. And one of the things that in my 3 books, every chapter has a workbook in it, and at the end of every book, there's a whole big workbook that we walk through, and we put some workshops together. And right now, I think we're one of the finalists for an award at the state of Texas to put on a course in effective communication, right? And that's always such a trigger word. What is communication? We look at it more like a dialogue. Dialogue is where we're having an exchange of ideas, like Dr. Jacalyn does all the time. Listen to understand. Don't listen to think about what I'm going to say next. And there's a whole series of things to become a good communicator, as you both know. It's not just when to speak and how the intonation and your voice. You have to know what to say and how to say it, and who's your audience. What are the things that they're really interested in? How are they going to connect with you? You have to understand the environment that you're in. Like if you're, in this case, you're a state office, you've got people from every single walk of life. If you're a manager, supervisor, how do you talk to them in a way that they can understand? Number one, understand what you're saying and respect and then they believe that you respect them. And that's a real big thing right now. Is in the old days, it was pounding on the desk and yelling. We had those managers, and those guys are pretty much gone, or hopefully will be all gone soon. And now it's a collaborator. And the term we like to use is an enabler. You will become an enabler doing this by having these kind of workbooks. Is you're enabling these other people to excel at what they do by opening doors for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, and let me follow up on that, because we're talking about getting people together. However, pre-COVID, most of that was in real in-person workshops. Have you seen the dynamic improve? They stay the same in the world of Zoom and StreamYard, but this video conferencing? Because sometimes we have a tendency to dull off, or we get distracted. We do that in person also. But what has been your experience with being able to get that message across into the video conferencing world?
That's a real good question, Red. There's nothing like being live. There's nothing like the interaction with the crowd and exchange live. But it's not happening nearly as much anymore. As part of it is people are now willing to start to travel again, but it's expensive. I remember being a corporate executive, how much money we were spending sending people to these events. Well, if we can do it like this, I don't have to have all the travel costs associated. I'm willing to pay the individual to put on the course or the program, and then I don't have to have the additional cost of transportation and all the other things that come into play. Now you have to have something to say. You have to have something of value when you do this virtually. But the reach has gotten so much bigger, and you can impact so many more people virtually. And it took us a while to understand that. I think it took us a while to understand Zoom and how it actually worked and what you could do with it. And then once people got comfortable with it, it's made a lot of progress. Now we've seen some Zoom fatigue now, where people know everything's a Zoom call now. But you have to you have to be very selective on when you're going to be doing these things. You can't just be blasting stuff out there just for the sake of blasting stuff out there. You have to have something of value.
Well, the value that I found, I met you on the Houston Veteran Chamber of Commerce,
Hmm.
and we connected, but our first call was a Zoom call, just two people to get to know each other. And I find that to be a very viable way. I've had, I think, two calls this week already just for somebody I met on LinkedIn. And I'm finding that the dynamic of being able to see somebody, to see your expression when we talk about things, and that goes a long ways. I have Zoom calls with Dr. Jacalyn all the time, and we're going back and forth, and I'm looking at her body language and her facial expressions, and some days she's tired because she only does about 300 of these shows a week, and she's up all hours because she's in New Zealand and South Africa and England and all over the place as far as doing these live presentations. And so you have a chance to see the people, and okay, I connect again with them the next day, and they're much different because that particular stress is over. And so I think from a non-public event, just the mere fact that we can communicate and actually see the other person as opposed to just hearing. And that just adds a major dynamic, and being able to coordinate with somebody, to connect with them, to really and truly know that person and trust them. And it's just like, boom, like that, fellow veterans, fellow publishers, fellow book writers, fellow, just, one, every time we looked at each other, we had things that were very much in common. And so I think that goes a long ways. And okay, there's a trust factor there, there's a credibility, you said authority. So we have a lot of those things. And I found the number of the number of publishers that I've contacted over the period, particularly during COVID, they're willing to share almost anything they're doing. It's just that seems to be, you would think, okay, I got to keep part of this back because that's mine. But in reality, that's not the truth. They're out there and they're sharing. And I may just run into the wrong group of people, but that seems to be a major part of the publishing and writing world. They're there to share.
It's absolutely right. It's all about relationships, and what Zoom did has helped dramatically is make that relationship connection quicker. Because when you're talking to somebody on the phone, you're not paying attention completely to them because you're doing other things and you're reading stuff and you're whatever we do when we're on the phone, right? But it's all about relationships, and people do business with people they know and they trust and they like. And Zoom gives us that ability to make that connection so that we know each other, and we've had a dialogue. It's almost like having coffee with somebody or having a meal with somebody. It's a different, it brings the relationship to a different level. And then when I got to Houston, I had never met you before, but I knew who you were immediately because we had a Zoom call. And we were able to start a conversation right like that. And we got into something very productive very quickly. And it's all about relationships, and that's the magic, is to build these strong, trusting relationships, and amazing things can happen.
Sometimes go ahead, doctor, you look like you were going to say something, and I cut you right off.
That's okay. What I was going to say is I completely agree. And I feel like through the pandemic, we ended up having access to people we never would have had access to before. And some of that is through these apps, and I can't think of what it's called. It's something about lunch. I can't think of the name. Also, Clubhouse, where if you wanted to talk to the CEO of a company or you wanted to talk to a major influencer, you had to go through all these hurdles. But because everybody was at home, we all had access to each other, and people let their hair down a little bit. And I think people took the ego and put it aside and said, hey, you know what? Before I'm a CEO, I'm a person. Before I'm a social media influencer, I'm a person, and I want to connect with other people. So, Frank, it sounds like you have a very robust network of people like Red, and that you continue to put yourself out there and attend events and offer your assistance. And that's great news for your clients.
It helps a great deal. I think the pandemic, we saw how important socialization is, and I think it's something we took for granted a long time. You go to work every day and you see these people, and we really didn't engage a lot, and then it was taken away, and then it was, wow, this is serious stuff. We need to have that connection, and this is a good way to stay connected. Now, my family, when this pandemic came, they're all over. I go all over the country, and we couldn't go see each other. And so this was a tremendous way to stay in touch. And how are you doing? Is everything okay there? We can't come there for Thanksgiving this year, or we can't come for Christmas this year. But we have to have a connection. You have to have a human connection, which is so critical just to your mental well-being, not let alone your business, but just your ability to, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It's so important that we interact and we connect with other people. And this is a great way to do it.
When we develop relationships with people, there's a trust factor, as you mentioned. But sometimes part of our psyche, as I see it, is that we have a problem that may not be stated. And part of the program that Dr. Jacalyn offers in listening is being able to listen and understand. And as we understand the person, sometimes people can exploit them. They can take advantage of them, because all of a sudden you hear this person, is 85 years of age and their entire savings is gone because they invested in something, because they overnight success. They had a problem, and this person had a solution, but that trust wasn't there. But that problem and solution was so great that it overcame that trust relationship. So when I look at people, you're reading body language, you're looking at a lot of things that you don't necessarily hear over the phone. But I think as we're developing that relationship with somebody else, we really and truly do need to take a look, and do they have that credibility and authority? What kind of history do they have with it? And that's where I think that you bring in 8 books in a row that are number one, award winning, this and that, and we're getting your brand out there, and all those things. Those are the keywords that a new author wants to hear. They want to know that what it's going to cost them in money and time, in appearances and whatever. And so when you're approaching, let's say not when you're approaching, a brand new author comes to you and they have a book in an area that makes sense for you, that yes, that's something that could go a long ways down the road. How do you give them that really good sense of, hey, I am the person you really need to be talking to? And if not, where do you send them?
That's a great question. We're fortunate now, we're having more people come to us than having to go out and look for people. And that's a good problem to have. But I just had a call just before we got on with someone who is, he's written a book before and it didn't do very well. I mean, he's very disappointed with the results, and he's coming out with a second book, and it's a life-changing type of a book. It's a lifestyle change book. And as we're talking, it's, what did you do last time? Where do you feel the shortfall was? What do you want to accomplish is the big thing. And then say, have you done this? Have you successfully been down this path? And he didn't. We had this first book. And we said, well, we have a roadmap for you. And that roadmap is the magic. Because most people think writing a book is the hardest part. And that's not even remotely close. It's hard to do, but that's not the most difficult piece. So then we just say, we've been there before. My partner and I are best-selling authors ourselves. We have won awards ourselves. We have guided 8 different titles down this path. And if this is something you are willing to do, and this is where it comes back to the individual, are you willing to follow the plan? Are you willing to be coached? Are you willing to step outside your comfort zone? If yes, then we can make magic happen with you. If no, then there's other folks out there who can do it. Now, to answer the second part of your question, if it's an area we know nothing about at all, then we say, well, you need to talk to Red, or you need to talk to, we'll refer them someplace to somebody, okay? Because the worst thing you can do is to jump into something that you're really not skilled at, but you're chasing the dollars like in the old days. No, it's not in our wheelhouse. But it is better. But we do know people who could help you, and then just refer them out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. While we have you up on Spotlight, I'd love for you to share your contact information or any last words of wisdom for our audience.
Sure. The contact information, I have a website, which is my name, frankzaccari.com, and you can see it on the screen there. And my email is frankzaccari@gmail.com. We kept it very, very simple. The message I want to get across to people as you go into 2023, everybody's going to get stuck eventually. Getting stuck is inevitable. Staying stuck is a choice. Don't enter 2023 being stuck. Take some steps, take some action, and let's have 2023 be the best year of your life.
For those people,
Nice.
yeah, for those people on the radio network, Frank Zaccara, Frank just like it's spelled, Frank, Zaccara, ZACCARI.com. So frankzacari.com or frankzacari@gmail.com.
Thank you for doing that. Forgot the radio part.
Thank you so much, Frank, for being here. We look forward to having you back on this or any of our other shows, and continued success and congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a wonderful holiday, and 2023 is going to be the best year ever.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. Merry Christmas there, Frank.
Merry
You
Christmas.
too.
Happy holidays. Bye for now.
Bye.
Well, thanks again, Red, for bringing him to the platform. That was a great show and a good opportunity to learn. And you're going to be teaching us something as well shortly after this program. Tell us more about that.
We're going to look at some health hacks that are going to improve your life in general, but we want to start it sooner than later. We're kind of setting it up for 2023, but these things can start literally this afternoon. There's no reason you have to wait for a specific date. Just like we do New Year's resolutions on the 1st of January, there's no reason you can't start a New Year's resolution on the 15th of December, get a 2-week advance start on it. So today we're going to be talking about what it takes to be healthy and how can we get there incrementally, not just take a big step and hopefully it's in the right direction, but take a little step, take a look around. What else can you do? Take another little step and get to where you can, in fact, enter 2023 first couple 3 months in a better position than we entered 2022 and 2021. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 sessions on Talking Heads.
Thank you so much, Red. And your contact information?
red.olaughlin.com. Red like the color, R-E-D. O'Laughlin spelled O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. So it's Red O'Laughlin, RED-OLAUGHLIN.com. In my banner there is my contact information with email and phone and everything. So if you got a question, email me. You got something you want to talk to me about the phone, give me a call. More than happy to chat with you. And again, I thank you very, very much, Dr. Jacalyn, 4-time #1 best-selling Amazon author, and congratulations on your last 2 books being #1 new releases in the children's world.
Well, thank you so much, Red. I couldn't have done it without you and without my co-author, Mariska Duprier, and our cast of animal characters, which I'll talk a little bit about, but I'll let you go over and get ready for your presentation. So thank you so much, and I'll see you backstage shortly.
Okay, I'll catch you in the next studio. Take care. Bye now.
Bye. And once again, thanks to each and every one of you for following, for participating, for sharing. We are having more and more people come to the platform through publicists and through finding us on their own. It's very exciting. And anytime somebody reaches out and says, wow, I've been watching your programs, I want to be a part of this, it really means a lot. How can you get involved? It's so simple. I've made it as simple as possible, I believe. You can get involved by being part of our mission to learn how to listen at an elevated level. What does that mean exactly? It means 4 things. Listening without interrupting. Listening without judging. Listening without providing a solution. And listening without stealing the stage. Now, I'll just briefly go through each of these. What does it mean stealing the stage? Stealing the stage, I'm having a conversation with you and I tell you, I just went on this great trip. I had such a nice time. And you say, well, I went on a trip and I had a really good time. And let me tell you about my trip. Well, now I'm not able to talk about my trip because you stole the stage. Providing a solution. I'm sharing something with you about my day and you say, I know I have the answer. No, you don't have the answer. I didn't ask you for an answer, but yet we always want to provide a solution because we feel awkward listening. We feel awkward in the silence that we want to help. And as soon as this starts happening, we're no longer listening, judging. pro-abortion, against abortion, gun control, pro or against, homeschooling. I could go on and on. As soon as someone says something and you feel differently than they do, what do? You stop listening, because now you've judged them. Now you've labeled them. Now you've decided, I don't want anything really to do with this person because now I know that they're XYZ. And this is going on all over the world. Imagine if in your own home, you didn't have any more arguments or discourse, or at your work or wherever it is, because you actually decided to listen. And of course, interrupting, we know this happens all the time. How many times are you in a meeting with someone? How many times are you sitting across the table at the holidays and someone's sharing and you go, oh, but no, stop talking. Listen, because if we are always interrupting each other, no one's going to feel that they've been heard. And when we haven't been heard, what happens? We start to get angry. We have resentments. And if you think about your own relationships with people, have you fallen into a pattern where you're so used to the other person not listening to you? Or maybe you're the one who's doing the interrupting and the other person, it's almost like they're literally shrinking in front of you because they're getting smaller and smaller because their self-esteem is going out the door because they can't get a word in. So I teach you how to listen at an elevated level in a 2-hour course that's online. You can take it at your convenience. When I started out, this course was much more expensive, and now I've dropped it down to $39. Why? I still think it's worth every penny of what I was charging before it was $257, but I want people to have access to the program. So it's now $39. Take it at your leisure over at drjacalyn.thinkific.com/collections. It's one of 7 courses that we currently offer. And once you take this course, you become an elevated listener and you can join our team of listeners. We have our own TV show. You can be part of that. And you can also be part of getting your certificate, like Kenley, who just joined our team, Kenley Davenport. He's now a certified elevated listener. He has a certificate, his headshot on our websites, usaglobaltv.com and drjacalyn.com. And we do a ton of promotion and marketing. Also, our elevated listeners are able to get involved with exclusive opportunities like the book that you just heard about, the book that is now an Amazon #1 new release. All the animal characters on the book represent real people. These people are all certified elevated listeners, and we had our launch party yesterday. We just released our 2nd book as a pre-order. And you see these animal characters here. These are represented by different elevated listeners. And this book also just became today at 4:00 in the morning when I saw it, an Amazon #1 bestseller. So if you want to be part of this journey, our 3rd book is coming out. We've already sold it out for our elevated listeners. The 3rd book is Lady Ella travels to London for a tea party. So we're working with one of our experts on afternoon tea in London. So he's involved with it as well. So that are all the messages I have for today. Again, inviting you to join us, book in for an interview. And finally, we have our big first year. That's right, 1 year. Can you imagine? 1 year anniversary show for USA Global TV and Radio. It's sold out. You can watch it anywhere you're watching our shows right now. And it is on January 15th, 2023. We'll be live streaming for 4 hours with some of our guests who've been here over the year promoting their work. Thank you again. I look forward to seeing you. I will be backstage producing, but Red is coming right back, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye. Bye, Frank.